Hi, Nancy.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, Nick.
Nancy.
Hi.
All right, I think we've got everybody and it's 4:01. Colleen, if you'd like to start.
Okay, well, good afternoon. I would like to call together the reorganization or organization meeting, the Borough of Beach Haven. It is Monday, January 3rd at 4:01 PM. Would you please stand and do the flag salute with me? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, adequate and electronic notice of this meeting has been provided by posting on the bulletin board in the Beach Haven Municipal Building, posting on our website, and mailing the same to the Beach Haven Times, the Asbury Park Press, and the Press of Atlantic City. Mr. Allen.
Here.
Mrs. Ballmiller.
Here.
Dr. Davis.
Here.
Mrs. Rutherford. I'll take that as a yes. Mayor Lambert.
Here,
All matters I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong agenda here. Okay, I have minutes for approval today, the December 13th regular meeting and the December 13th executive session minutes for approval without formal reading.
I assume everybody has read them. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion approved. All matters listed under item consent agenda are considered to be routine by the municipal council and will be enacted by one motion in the form listed. Any items requiring expenditure are supported by a certification of availability of funds, and any item requiring discussion will be removed from the consent agenda and discussed separately. All consent agenda items will be reflected in full in the minutes. Resolution 1, 2022 is the annual meeting notice. If you've had a chance to take a look at that, council, we do have 2 meetings on there for the Community Development Block Grant. Those are to hear ideas and then select ideas for that grant program. Other than that, the schedule is pretty normal. Resolution 2 is naming our check signers. Resolution 3 is adopting Robert's Rules of Order. Resolution 4 is acknowledging the managerial appointments for our CDBG, the Community Development Block Grant representatives, our GIF Fund Commissioner, and our Public Agency Compliance Officer. Resolution 5 is awarding professional service contracts for our contracts under 17.5. Those include our COA council. Last year, the COA council expenditure item was about $3,000. There was a slight increase to their hourly rates, about $5. The next is the prosecutor, Sitta, Holzapfel, and Zabarski. There was no change to their fees. Last year, the cost to us was $11,250. Public defender, Deborah Rumpf. That is a per case fee. Conflict public defender, Brian DeStefano. He is charging a per session fee. Our appraiser, Henry Mancini. Last year, the cost to the town was $1,195, and there was some increases to the hourly rates there. The HPAC attorney, no change, no cost to the borough last year. The COA administrative agent, they do have some new fees on their schedule this year because of some new programs that we implemented. The cost to the borough last year was $8,152. And an alternate land use board attorney, Kevin Quinlan. No change from last year. Any questions on that one, guys, before I move on?
No.
Okay. Resolution 6, 2022 is awarding professional service contracts in excess of $17,500. Those items are the municipal auditor, Holman, Frenia, and Allison. There's no change to their fee from last year. The cost to the borough last year was $39,210. Bond counsel, John Vitar. There are some, no changes to his fees, and the cost to the borough last year was $12,608. Borough engineer, Owen Little and Associates. There are some increases to the hourly rates for Frank Little's office schedule for multiple personnel in his office. The cost to the borough last year was $316,600. Cleary, Giacob, Alfieri, and Jacobs for Bruce for the solicitor position and labor attorney. There's no change in those fees. The cost to the borough last year was $99,563. Redevelopment council and alternate solicitor, Maley and Givens. No change in the fees there. Last year, $113,000. Land use board attorney, Bob Shin from Woodland, McCoy and Shin, no change there. Resolution 7. Did you have a question? Okay. Resolution 7, 2022, acknowledging managerial appointments to the Historic Preservation Advisory Commission. After our reappointments to that board, we will still have a vacancy in the alternate 2 position. So we're looking for volunteers there. Resolution 8, 2022 is acknowledging mayoral appointments to the Library Board of Trustees. We did have a vacancy going into this year, so Jane McKelvery is going to be filling that position. So we have a full slate of board members. 9, 2022, authorizing the municipal tax assessor or municipal attorney as agent in filing petitions of appeal and complaint. Resolution 10 is adopting a cash management plan. Resolution 11 is acknowledging the managerial Class 1, Class 2, and Class 3 appointments for the Land Use Board. That would be Nicole Talent Baxter for the mayoral designee. I might be out of order here, but Tom Metal as the borough employee designee, Class 2, and Jamie, you're going to represent the council as the Class 3. The managerial appointments to the General Land Use Board is Resolution 12. There's really no changes to the membership. We're just renewing terms and there's no vacancies. Resolution 13 is appointing a certifying officer for the Division of Pensions and Benefits. Resolution 14, establishing the 2022 fees for special services for special events, no changes there. 15, fixing the rates of interest to be charged on delinquent taxes and water. Resolution 16 is identifying the prosecutor roster for 2022. That is specifically identifying the alternates and in what order they will appear. 17 is renewing the resident request for additional handicap parking. 18, appointing a tax and assessment search officer. 19, authorizing tax collector to conduct electronic tax sale. 20, declaration of civil rights. 21, establishing fees for tax sale notices. 22 is adopting a temporary budget. 23, designating an authorized signatory for certified lists of 200-foot radius for land use and CAFR application notices. 24 is executing an agreement with Bonnie Wells for marketing and website services. 25, executing an agreement with Regina Latito for social media marketing services. 26, canceling tax and water balances and credits under $10. 27, authorizing execution of a shared agreement with the County of Ocean for participation in the Move Over law enforcement program. 28 is executing an employment contract with Mike Winkelspect. This is one that we had discussed in the past, and we agreed that once the Public Works contract was settled, that was what he would also be offered, and that's what he has accepted. 29 is executing an employment contract with Steve Letts. 30 is amending an employment contract with Mary Claire Bunce. 31 is memorializing a contract between Local 97, this is Public Works and Water, with the Borough of Beach Haven. 32, executing an employment contract with Sharon Bowler. 33, appointing Stacy Kerr as municipal judge and executing an employment contract there. Are there any questions about those before I move on to the next bunch about the contracts and the union contract?
No.
Okay. 34, executing a shared service agreement with Ocean County for animal facility services. 35 is authorizing the submission of a grant application to Atlantic City Electric for the EV Smart Make Ready program. 36, approving the 2021 addendum to the 2015 multi-jurisdictional program for public information, part of the National Flood Insurance System. 37 is opposing toll increases proposed by the New Jersey Turnpike Authority and the South Jersey Transportation Authority. 38 is approving the bill list as of 12/31/2021 and authorizing payment. 39, authorizing the cancellation of taxes due to a 5-year abatement. 40 is budget transfers. 41, authorizing cancellation and refund of taxes for 100% disabled veteran. And finally, 42, authorize a rebilling and extended grace period for taxes for certain properties.
Okay, quite a
Cool.
list. I know, we were able to look at those and read them ahead of time. Is there anybody who has a question, a concern, or anything to be removed and discussed? No? Then is there a motion to accept the resolutions within the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Allen,
Yes.
Mrs. Ball Miller,
Yes.
Dr. Davis,
Yes.
Mrs. Rutherford,
Yes.
Mayor Lambert.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we got you, Chris. Thank you. Okay, so we'll move on to the
Okay,
gen-
there's a delay. Sorry.
Okay, you're good. We'll move on to the general discussion item. We had reviewed an ordinance that was adopted by Morristown. We did get a little bit of positive feedback from a few of the council members, so we took a deep dive into it and started to review it in-house. We do have a few business owners on the call today that would like to try to come to a determination if the council is going to be considering or not considering adoption of an ordinance, so that they know what direction they need to proceed going into next season, whether it be getting on an agenda before the land use board or making application to the borough through an ordinance.
Anybody like to jump in? Okay, I will. And first of all, let me just say that, of course, this is all predicated on whether or not, heaven forbid, we have to go back to any kind of COVID protocol again. Hopefully, we will not. I don't get the feeling that's the way we're going, but just let me throw that caveat in there. I think the last couple of years, we were happy to do everything we could to help the restaurants out. And I know that the outdoor dining and, all the makeshift efforts that went into it were well received, certainly by the business owners. But I have to say, I received an awful lot of comments from the townspeople that they really felt that, they, and I have to agree, would like to get our town back on some kind of normal footing. I have never seen so many people in this town as I did this summer. The traffic, the people, the fact that we gave up sidewalk space, we gave up some of our parks, we gave up a lot of parking lots. I just don't feel that that is a good thing for this town. And like I said, barring anything extraordinary, I think we should go back to pre-COVID dining, and that is just my opinion. Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to jump in. I feel just the opposite. Interestingly enough, the people that contacted me were people that really liked the concept of outdoor dining. I think it made the town look fun. I think people enjoyed it. I think it's safer sitting outside. I think if with various restrictions to cut out the noise, keep the noise down, and to have a smaller amount of outdoor dining where it's possible, I think adds a lot to the town. I think it gave it a festive appearance. I didn't really feel that it was detrimental in any way. I mean, there were some problems with noise, but interestingly enough, the people that contacted me really liked it. A lot of towns are now going to have outdoor dining in the future because of the festive effect. I mean, I guess I travel a lot. I see a lot of people eating outdoors, people enjoying themselves. And I think it's a good idea. So that's my personal feeling.
Okay, I'll jump in next. I kind of agree somewhat with both of you. I have to say that I think that going forward, I think this should be something for the land use board to take a good look at. I think application should be made in front of them, not to throw them under the bus, but I think that's the appropriate place. Because I do know that there were a couple complaints that arose this summer from not being able to pass on the sidewalk due to tables encroaching, umbrellas encroaching. I think if, I like the outdoor dining, but it's got to be done in a way that doesn't hinder pedestrian traffic, doesn't result in any problems with safety. So that being said, I'm not against outdoor dining, but I think it should be in front of the land use board. It's kind of their domain to say what is acceptable and what is not. I mean, I did like it. I myself ate outside at a bunch of different establishments in town this summer, and I thought it was really nice sitting outside, eating, watching the world go by. But at the same time, we have to be cognizant of foot traffic, safety. I've heard complaints that they couldn't get baby strollers past the tables, things of that nature had to go out on the street. And that's where I think we have to delineate the line of what's acceptable and what's not. So that's kind of how I feel on that.
I just want to, again, I agree with Dan. I think the land use board should have a say. I thought the ordinance and reading it, there's a lot of, it's the Morristown ordinance. I read it. I own property in Morristown. They're a pretty conservative town. But basically, there were a lot of restrictions in that ordinance relating to outdoor diner that I think would address the problems you mentioned, Dan. In addition to that, there's a lot of escape pieces in there where that if problems do occur, you could shut it down. I don't think we need the extent of it we had this year, but I do think this COVID thing's here to stay. Personally, I am more comfortable outside than I am inside. And as I say, I think it makes it fun. And but I agree with you. There's sidewalks that are crowded. I also think, our businesses, they've been doing well. But as far as the restaurants go, I mean, they have such a limited time to make money, and people do like sitting outside. And I think this does enhance their business. And I think we need restaurants. We need seats in restaurants. If anything, we need more restaurants on the island in general, not just in Beach Haven, because we probably have the most. But people like to go out to eat, and they don't want to have to wait for hours to sit down. And when they have small kids, I think it's nicer for them to be outdoors. And if the setting of the restaurant can accommodate this without it impeding, the traffic on the sidewalks, I think we should give it a try. We can always stop it in the future. But I do think I agree with you. The land use board should be able to chime in on this as well.
Okay. I kind of fall in between Nancy, Dan, all three of you actually. But I disagree. I think that the land use board needs some guidelines. Just to put it on them is not fair. I like the idea of a sidewalk cafe. I like the idea of restricting it to tables of 4, tables of 6 and 8 on the sidewalk. That's when it gets, people can't pass by. As far as the permanent structures and tents and covering parking, I think that's not the direction that this town should be moving forward, blocking parking lots and parking spaces. And also, I don't think we should be moving toward the entire seating capacity outside. So if a restaurant holds 400 people, that doesn't mean that you're going to now have 400 people outside. I think that it was just the past 2 summers, we were very lenient and we wanted to help the businesses, especially the restaurants, as much as possible. But again, covering parking lots, having your entire seating capacity outside on the sidewalks and in parking lots with permanent tents and structures is just not, that's not what I'm looking for. I like the idea of small sidewalk cafes.
Chris?
Yeah, so, looking over this ordinance, I agree that it is nice to be able to set outside. I know lots of people who enjoy that. I personally do as well, but it needs to be, have some oversight. I think that the ordinance gives good options for people to be able to come before the borough and provide their application of what they like. I don't want to see large tents being put up here and there and everywhere. I think it needs to be organized a little bit better. I think that taking away parking, listening to land use board meetings and other people complaining that there's not enough parking and then having, parking being taken away, I think is a problematic. So I like what Nancy was saying, like, and Jamie, having not that they are impeding the walkway of public right of way, that it's creating an issue for people is a challenge that we faced for the past 2 years. But we did that so that we could help these businesses thrive and grow, which I think was awesome. But moving forward, it needs to be in a more organized way and not just willy-nilly. So I like what's in this ordinance. I think there's some good things. It's going to be important for us to have to obviously who's going to monitor that. Like Jamie said, you can't have 400 people sitting outside and 400 people sitting inside. It can't be that. We're going to have to make sure that we're managing that a little bit better, and how we do that requires some staffing too. So there's that. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a business owner. I'm not a restaurant owner.
Right.
I've worked at restaurants for, many, many years, but I don't know what that number would be. I don't know how to limit. I would like to hear input from the restaurant owners, what's the limit? Is 20%, 25%, but it's definitely not 100% of your seating capacity outdoors.
I think Chris just touched on something very important, because we all know that the way the executive order was written was that they were never to exceed 100% of what their occupancy was, period. And there was no enforcement. And I don't really mind that, because it was a tough couple years. But I do think if we're going to do something like this, then there has to be some kind of enforcement, because it really was kind of a circus last year. And, I saw people walking in the streets because they couldn't get on the sidewalks. And that was one of the complaints I got. So it's funny that you have not been receiving the same thing I have, but be that as it may, that going forward, and I had in my notes too, that the land use board, I hear what you're saying, Jamie, it's not fair to just dump it on them. But, if we come up with something, it has to be really judicious, and there has to be enforcement. And that's what we've been lacking.
Mhm. I see we have Pete Palladino on the call with us. Pete, are you able to talk with us a little bit?
Yes. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Pete.
I know you've been listening. Can you want to chime in on what you think, how this would affect you and what you guys are looking for?
Yeah, I think, overall, obviously, I would be in overwhelming support of this idea. I think what we've seen over the past 2 summer seasons, while we're all allowed to expand our outside footprint, is that it created this wonderful outdoor culture where folks would just like walk from restaurant to restaurant, much like they do in other beach communities, right? I think, obviously adopting an idea like this is a change in thinking for all of us, but the landscape is totally different than it was 2 years ago. Created by COVID, yes, but there were plenty of evenings this past summer where we had inside dining and outside dining, and I would have all of my outside outlets would be full and I would have nobody inside. I think that just speaks to the way that people want to use our restaurants. And, I agree. I think COVID is here to stay. I agree with Nancy. I think that it's going to change how we all do business. People enjoy having outdoor options at the beach and flock to places that can accommodate that. I think guests enjoy seeing life and energy as you walk down the streets. We've had a ton of feedback on that. I agree. It's got to be reined in. It can't just be willy-nilly. All of us as business owners, we're constantly trying to figure out, how we can succeed so we can flourish and reinvest and grow. Like, to me, this is a great opportunity for the township of Beach Haven to embrace a different way of looking at what we do. Yes, we were all pushed outside due to COVID, but I think the success of the past 2 summers has shown us that it's possible to have a similar expansion, still maintain safety, zone compliance, accommodate parking, all that. After all, the more attractive Beach Haven is to visit, the more successful we all are as these people all invest in our local economy. So I would certainly be 100%, in support of this.
So Pete, you guys didn't have any sidewalk encroachment issues, but you did take up some parking. So can you talk to us about your parking situation and how would you go forward using your parking area? What percentages would you be using?
I just don't think it's, I think, look, we took up almost 100% of our parking, and I agree. I don't think that was, I don't think that's sustainable. I think that certainly there's a percentage there. We didn't have any issues at our place, and I'm involved in a place called Tucker's Tavern, by the way, at our place that, nobody was coming in saying I drove around for an hour, I couldn't find parking. I think what it pushed people to do was either hop on their bikes or walk. It was different, so even if there was a percentage of parking that you needed to maintain, I would certainly agree to that.
I have a question about that, Pete. So I live in the same relative area where Tucker's is, and I saw that parking push out into the neighboring, like people parking alongside the road and the streets there on Amber and Coral. Did you have issues with people coming to you, neighborhood people coming to you complaining about that, like that there was no parking? Because I hear that around town, but I don't know if that's specific to you. I mean, I definitely noticed more parking on the streets, which those streets are usually ghost towns really when you guys had the parking lot.
Right.
But the past 2 years, there's been more parking on those streets. So just curious.
Up and down the island, I have not necessarily seen that coming into any of our restaurants, be it Tucker's or Daddio. I think that people were just finding different places to park. I think that the reality is the more busy, people aren't driving their car onto the island to just go, not down to Beach Haven anyway, to just go to dinner. They're there already. So their cars are already there. They're there because they're staying there for the week. So they do have to find some place to park while they're visiting us. But no, any complaints that I got from any of our neighbors were not due to parking, and any of the complaints we did get, we were able to rectify pretty quickly.
Okay, thank you for your honesty.
How many cars can you get in that lot? I'm just curious because I doubt you can get that many in unless you had valet parking.
So in that particular lot where our tent was, there were 66 spaces, I believe.
66 parking spaces? No, seating spaces. You couldn't get 66 parked cars in there.
In that parking lot, I want to say that that's a lie. I want to say there's 33 there, and then we have another 9 on the other side. I think so. So I'm sorry, Nancy, you were asking how many seats we could get under there?
No, how many cars? If you were using it as a parking lot, how many cars? Yeah, I could see that seats, but how many cars? You probably couldn't fit that many cars in without valet parking.
Correct. I mean, let's just say we were to do, half of the parking lot. We would have to arrange the parking so that it would accommodate, and maybe, yes, that is valet.
That's the only way you could. I mean, personally, I've always said all along, and I know Kitty Snyder's had, we don't really have a parking problem as much as what people say. We have Ubers that can get people around. I mean, if you're handicapped, that becomes a problem because you have to get really close to the place. But I do see people walking, riding their bikes. I mean, I think we need more spots for bikes to park. I just don't see the parking as much of a problem as people say it is. And personally, I mean, the chicken and the egg are getting like 44 more seats in there, and they don't offer one parking spot. So I really don't have any objections to you seating some people in a parking lot that can hardly fit any cars anyway, but you can fit people in and they like sitting outside. So they're more likely to come to your restaurant because they like to be outside. And I feel the same way. Also, you can space people farther apart inside, which seems to be a little safer. I just really don't think this COVID thing's going away. And, but even if it does, people like sitting outside.
Well,
And another thing I just want to mention is I do think we need an ordinance. I don't think we should throw this totally on the land use board, but I think they should be able to chime in. But I do think we need an ordinance. Sorry, that's all I'm going to say.
but you have outdoor seating currently. You have the outdoor deck, you have a rooftop deck. I mean,
Who are you
So-
talking? Who are we talking to?
to Pete at Tucker's. I mean, you
correct.
have outdoor seating. You
Oh.
have the deck, you have a rooftop deck. So I mean, what more what are you looking for pretty much? Like how much more do you want outside?
Like, I think all of us, I can speak for ourselves. So I would love to have, a portion of what we did last year in that parking space, on the side of the building. Obviously, I don't think the tent that we put up could go back up. I don't think that we could, that was a bit big. But a portion of that, people certainly enjoyed that, and so we're just trying to figure out how to adapt to the way that our guests are using us. And like I said before, we had plenty of nights where, yes, even though we had seating inside, I didn't have anybody that had any desire to sit inside. People wanted to sit outside, and we're all just trying to figure out how to maximize these 3 months that is summer so that we can stay open all year long. And so if that means that the accordion can expand for a little bit for those 3 or 4 months, then I think that would be a good thing for all of us.
So I have a question. If you, I think what I'm hearing is that if you go to the land use board, you could possibly be approved for additional outdoor seating with a permanent structure. But if we did it with the ordinance, it would be more of a temporary solution. And I heard two different things between the council members, that you'd prefer something permanent or prefer not a tent. So that's another thing we need to consider, council, that if it goes before the land use board, they could be granted approval for additional seating with a permanent structure, right? I mean, Pete, were you looking to do another small tent, or if you go to the land use board, are you going to do a permanent, like a pergola?
I think that, depending upon what you folks decide today, I think that, if it was temporary expansion is allowed for all of our businesses, I would go back to all my partners and say, what do you guys want to do next year? If it was not something that was, allowed by you folks, I think that we would certainly put together an application for land use to create some sort of an outside structure area, a deck that comes off with, some sort of a permanent structure out there. Yes.
I can see, some kind of, as you said, maybe a possible deck or something. I really don't like the idea of giving up the parking lots. 2 years ago, we were going to buy trolleys for $350,000 because of the parking and to get people around town. Now, all of a sudden, we lost all our parking lots, we designated parking spaces in the street. I just feel that I don't think Beach Haven has a parking problem, in that there are plenty of places. They're just not where people want to be.
Mhm.
And that's the problem. So, I can understand if you can create a space, but I really don't want to see the parking lots used. I just think that's a bad precedent, personal opinion.
So I hear that we don't want to give up any parking, and we don't want to allow any encroachment on the sidewalk. So, I mean, what are we willing to give?
I have no problem giving up some parking. So not everybody feels that way.
Well, I don't know how every facility going to be able to do, not everyone has parking spaces, and we're not shutting down the road. I mean, that's for sure. So
Right.
how do you maximize, is this something that everyone can benefit from, or just certain people that have parking lots? I mean, so that's the challenge.
So I guess
That's a challenge.
my question is, is the council willing to work on this ordinance and say that we'd be willing to give sidewalk with a minimum clearance for 4 tops only. And we're willing to give parking space for 50%, or, are we willing to work on an ordinance to try to get it to where we want it to be? Or are we saying today that we're not going to do an ordinance and we're going to just let them make application to the land use board? I guess that's what I need to hear. And I do have another hand up. Let me know what you would like to do with that.
I think we should do it an ordinance, delineate. I agree with Jamie. It's not fair just to dump it in the land use board's laps. I also have to say that our zoning ordinances regarding parking were written for a reason, and we're getting dangerously close to throwing them out the window for outdoor seating. As Chris said, or Colleen said, parking may not be a problem in some areas of town, but they're not in the populous areas. Second Street, everybody up and down that road will vehemently disagree with you on this problem with the parking problem. Down by Tucker's, Pete, I was down there a few times this summer. And was your tent ever at full capacity? Because that was like a beer garden. That was like Oktoberfest down there, the way that thing was set up. It was huge.
Correct.
Did you ever
Yeah.
fill every seat on that outside?
Do we fill every seat? There were picnic tables, so, we tried to just spread people out. Like the original footprint was COVID restrictions, so all the picnic tables were 6 feet apart.
Sure.
So, yeah, we had people sitting at all the picnic tables, yes, but, a lot of them were 2 tops, 4 tops, and 6 tops.
Here's another question, not to incriminate you, but between indoor and outdoor, did you ever have more than the fire marshal said was acceptable? Because that was, the occupancy was supposed to be maxed with the combination, rather than you could have this many inside plus this many outside. I'm
I
asking the restaurant owner here, because we did hear problems last summer of restaurants getting behind, getting yelled at, aggressive customers because they had to wait too long, maybe because there was too much demand and not enough help to keep up. That's the other side. I mean, if we have too many people at the restaurants can't keep up. That's not good either. You know what I mean? I know you guys, I'm not putting a finger at you, but I'm just trying to get a feel for this.
Yeah, I mean, like so our fire code, I want to say, is 500 people. I think that I just don't know if we might have inched over that, but I just don't feel like we had the physical space. 500 people is a lot of people.
Oh,
You know
yeah.
what I mean? And like, so between the 2 spaces, I don't think that was an issue.
Okay.
And we
I
tried
just-
to keep people, separated a bit inside because, even though we were allowed to go back to 100%, people didn't want to use us like that. I think that's what we're seeing, is how do we react to the way that our guests are using us? Because regardless of what the laws are, it's what people are comfortable with.
Well, we can't throw the laws out the window. But
No, I totally agreed. But I mean, like, so we could be at 100%, but if people don't want to use us like that, we have to just figure that out.
sure.
Dan, you're willing to work at an ordinance?
I am, but I think we have to be very careful about being equitable to every business. That's going to be a trick. Like, you were saying, not every business has a 33 space parking lot that they can slice 15-20% out and utilize for outdoor dining. So we have to, it's going to be a tightrope walk, but I think it's worth a try, as long as it's managed the right way and we don't make things worse by trying to do this with parking and crowding and, things like that.
And I agree. We are very, very lucky that we have that lot attached to us. And there's a lot of businesses that don't necessarily have that. So yes, that is tricky.
Thanks, Pete. Jamie, are you interested in working on an ordinance or no?
I don't want all of these businesses that have to go to the land use board. Just being a member of the land use board, and Dan has as well. One of the things that is always expressed by the land use board is like they want guidelines from council, that it's not fair for them to, make these decisions on a whim. So I think that we need to definitely work on an ordinance and not have these businesses have to go in front of the land use board. But
Right.
again, I don't think that parking lot should be used. Like I said, I like the idea. I forget if it was Morristown or Red Bank or one of the 8 ones that you sent us. I like the sidewalk cafe idea. I
Mhm.
like it limited to a smaller capacity so there can have a flowing pedestrian walkway, and that these need to be, put away at the end of the night as well. So prevents vandalism and stuff like that. But permanent structures, and I think we need to move away from that.
Colleen?
Well, as I already said, I don't believe in giving up our parking. I think, that's already been enough of an issue, and I've already been approached, Dan kind of mentioned it, from some people on Second Street about making it even tighter. So it seems to me we're going backward if we, start giving up parking. Yeah, I mean, I can understand if you feel an ordinance is warranted, then I would be willing to work on that as well.
Okay. Nancy?
I'm totally in favor of it.
Chris?
Yes, I think an ordinance is important to help to give guidance and also to give control over kind of what happens. I think there's going to need to be some enforcement of it, unfortunately, but that helps us be kind of more in control of that versus having to leave it to the land use board. I don't think that's totally ideal. So.
Okay. All right. So Bruce, we have some work to do. I see that Deb, you have your hand up. Did you want to weigh in on this topic real quick?
I do. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I understand what Pete is saying, and I fully agree with what our mayor and Jamie and Chris have said. I don't have a problem with outdoor dining, sidewalks, as long as pedestrians and people with strollers and young children can safely navigate without going in the street. But one more season of giving up hundreds and hundreds of parking spaces for tents and other structures for outdoor dining is not needed. It's not wanted by the rest of us. This is the first year that the museum has had to shut its parking lot off because people have been going round and round and round in the neighborhood looking for a parking space. And there's been days when Jim and I have been on first aid calls where we couldn't even park in our own parking lot because restaurant people are looking for a place to park. So anyone who says that there's not a serious impact on parking by using parking lots for outdoor dining is either delusional or lives outside of Long Beach Island, because it's a serious problem. And I am totally personally opposed to the use of any parking spots or parking lots for outdoor dining after this past year. It's unnecessary. The restaurants and the bars have never made more money than they have these last 2 years. And we've all been very good about it. And we've put up with the intense parking issues, but enough is enough. And I'm totally against any outdoor dining that requires the use of required parking spaces. So I just wanted to put that on the record, because contrary to the beliefs of some of you, it is a problem and it needs to end. The end of the use of municipal properties and the use of required parking for outdoor dining must come to an end. Thank you.
Deb. Thanks, Deb. All right. Anyone else on council need to weigh in on this before we move on?
No.
All right. Number 2 was an ordinance on the pool dewatering. Unfortunately, the ordinance that we had in place for dewatering through a sewer with a meter was not a doable plan. We're proposing an amendment to the ordinance. Did any of you have questions about the ordinance, or are you okay with moving forward?
So originally, when this ordinance was put into place, is because, everyone feels that they need a swimming pool now. And the problem with having a swimming pool on a barrier island is that we're 2 feet from the actual water table. So you have to pump out all the water in order to put in your swimming pool. And this was a big problem for me, especially because I had 3 put on my street, and my daughters walk on the school for, 3 months straight through water, trying to, get to school, and it stinks, it smells, because of the bacteria and the sulfur. So unfortunately, this was put into place that, Frank, our engineer, thought that this would work, but it does not. So we can't just ban swimming pools. So now we have to, amend it. And the problem with our sewers is that they go down and then they come back up. So the solution was to have these dewatering hoses run all the way to Bay Avenue, Sherry. And I question that, because that means people are going to be running over them on Atlantic and Beach.
Mhm.
And you said that the pool company said that these hoses are flexible.
Yeah, so 2-inch flexible hose, it can be run over. So it wouldn't hurt them to be run over if that's the case, and they're not dewatering in the summer months, and that's only on the east side of the boulevard. And then they'd have to put cones out where it crosses the sidewalks. Any dewatering on the west side of the boulevard, they could run the hose to the closest
Right.
storm drain or to the bay or lagoon.
Just clarify for me, I know in the summer they can't dewater. What are the dates? When does it start and when does it end? I think it was like.
June 15th.
Labor Day.
June 15th and Labor Day.
That's what I
For,
thought.
yeah.
I think maybe if we do that, we need to extend that time period a little bit, because it's still pretty, once it gets busy, with a lot more traffic, during the off season, I don't think it'll be a big deal driving over those lines, but even June 15th kind of.
Well, even like
for
till
that.
Labor Day, Nance, like people were walking through this at Buckaloo's because they're putting a pool in between Atlantic and Beach
I
on
know,
Center Street, and it was dewatering. People were like had to step over this huge area just to get into the restaurant.
I know.
then-
I know.
It's just, I don't know.
What happened? Why didn't the meters work? I know they're expensive, but why didn't they work?
Because the only where exactly the sewers are like in the middle of the street. So you can't pipe your hose and place it in the middle of the street. That's the only where the sanitary sewer would be. So it just didn't work, unfortunately, because of the placement of where our sanitary sewers, the outfall is.
Mhm.
I guess the only other option is to have, I know you can do this, you can have trucks carry the water.
I mean, I would prefer doing anything. I think it's a mess. I don't appreciate it. You're not allowed, according to our own ordinances, you're not allowed to run your sump pump for 24 hours straight, but you can run these 24-hour operations for 15 days straight, which it's noisy. And it vibrates your house and it's unpleasant. And it's not just, one every couple years. You have to do this for every single pool.
I agree.
So I don't know what the answer is. I thought this could, somehow help, but unfortunately this does work in other towns, but because of where our sanitary sewer outfall is, it's not going to work. So I don't know. It's a
Can we
very
go
unique
back to the
situation.
drawing board and try to find some other solutions. It's a mess. I agree with you. It is a mess.
Well, right now, we've administratively put this in place because there are pool contractors working that couldn't use the other way. So I'd like to move something forward quickly. Are you talking about making the moratorium period longer, Nancy?
Yes.
Jamie, is that what you want to do?
So I would like it. And also, I think that there needs to be also, so how many pools were dewatering before we had this storm? They're probably still some of them dewatering currently, like during, flood events. Someone needs to shut these things off. They cause more flooding on the boulevard, unfortunately. And I don't know what exactly the answer is. So I am looking for a solution. I do think that the time should be longer. Labor Day is definitely not long enough. I know people are anxious to get these pools in, but at the price of the community, and I don't think that's fair.
I agree. I think it should at least go till the end of September, maybe after Chowder Fest and then, and stop at May 15th. That would be my compromise.
Okay,
But
we'll work on, go ahead, Chris.
I was gonna say, can you put pool, I mean, I know we don't freeze like you do on the mainland, but like, I mean, that then limits the amount of time these pool companies. And look, I think there needs to be a better solution too, but that limits the time these pool companies can put these pools in. Right?
Mhm.
They still have pretty much time though. I mean, most of the fall and it doesn't freeze much after March. They'd have pretty much March and April and part of May.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna, I guarantee after tonight's land use board meeting too, there's gonna have to be another kind of, we have to fix something else in this pool ordinance because it wasn't considered that, I didn't even realize this, that we have, we have corner lots and we have lots in between the corners. And then we have these other lots like in between Second and Dock Road that are through and throughs. They have two fronts and two sides, but they're not corner lots. So that wasn't taken into account also. So that has to be written in as well. So people that are now purchasing and demolish and taking down those houses have two fronts and two sides, but aren't corner lots. So
Mhm.
that has to go into there too.
I have a
Okay.
question.
Go ahead, Dan.
So we're gonna run these 2-inch hoses. Let's say somebody on the beach block, it's gonna go across the bike lane
Yes,
hose.
Mhm.
Is there anything in the ordinance requiring them to make it safe for bikes? Because that's, a car is one thing, but a kid on a
Right.
bike, is a whole nother story.
I
They
agree.
just would have to put cones out to mark it.
Cones or a ramp on either side of it.
You'd have
at
to
least.
put a ramp, really.
I don't think so, just cones. It's a soft hose.
It's like a fire hose, right? Like how they roll flat and then it just
Yes.
expands when, yeah.
I mean, water was running through it. It's not gonna, well, it depends on how much water, but
Just thinking about the bike lanes, You
yeah, I
Soft
agree.
toes, you get these guys that exercise on those tiny little skinny tires, they're gonna get fouled up. So those guys barely pay attention as it is. Just think maybe we should put something in there, protect that at least.
Okay,
Yeah, because the way that it runs now, Dan, it'll go, like if you have a house on Atlantic,
No, I know, I have on Liberty that's being dewatered.
yeah, so it goes down
Yeah.
underneath and then up and then down and then up. Yeah, so I don't know for safety if that's gonna be,
Yeah, it'd have to go across Atlantic, and if you were on the ocean block, it'd have to go across Atlantic and across Beach to get to Bay Avenue. So you'd have this line going all the way up to Bay Avenue.
yeah, so you either see a hose, which we have to be careful because of safety, or you just have, a bunch of water for 15 days straight.
What's better?
I know what's better. I mean, at least though, if you do have the water, you don't have, the potential of bikers. But if you're extending the length of time, you're not going to have many bikers once it gets cold. But except my husband.
Where before they were just pouring right into the
near-
drainage at,
the
yeah,
close-
okay, all right. And that we don't like because sorry, did I miss that? Why is that not good?
Because it just leaves a stream of water in front of
Wow.
everybody's house.
But it would be in a hose too, like you're running all the way out to Bay Avenue, right?
Yes, but it's not like a puddle of water everywhere.
Do we know what any of the other townships are doing? Does it matter? I mean, it really doesn't matter, but I mean, it sounds like there is no answer. And I know, Jamie, you've been working with Frank and I
Like,
guess,
I mean, it's just it's the latest. I don't know, everybody wants a pool now for some reason, because it
Oh, yeah.
increases your rental property value. So,
we'll tweak it a little bit and we'll bring it back at the next meeting. And I mean, we've got to just try and see what happens. All right.
Okay.
All right, the last item under general discussion is an ordinance, a draft ordinance for pickleball. There are two objects to the ordinance. Number one was to eliminate the online registration system. and allow the folks to just register or organize with the whiteboard system that they've been using prior to COVID. And to also give the attendant at the courts a little more authority to organize and run the courts down there. And we've talked, I think I've talked to a handful of you about this topic, and Jonathan Brinkmiller, who ran the courts last summer, couldn't make it today, but he did send a recorded message. Can we take 5 minutes and listen to that?
Sure.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Beach Haven Council. My name is Jonathan Brinkmiller. I was the
Can you hear it?
Yes.
manager of the pickleball courts last summer, and I worked there the 3 years before that. And Sherry Mason contacted me about speaking at this meeting on the topic of the court reservation system. And I'm sorry I couldn't be there, but I figured I might as well try to get my opinion across to the council. When we first started the court reservation system, it was due to COVID. And last summer, we still kept it at the start of summer due to COVID. And then as well as the council wanted to make sure we didn't have too many people there due to the possibility of a dangerous situation for the surrounding houses and neighbors. I believe that the court reservation system is not as beneficial as it is harmful to the employees specifically. Last summer, the employees faced a lot of basically verbal harassment from players due to frustration created by the sign-up system. I don't know how much the council knows, but Sherry Mason knows the Jody Bargones incident. And then there were a couple other incidents where my employees and the borough's employees were basically just yelled at for no reason. And that created an unsafe work environment and an environment where the employees didn't really want to go to work because we all knew we would get yelled at when we went to work. We had a lot of support from most of the players, but those few really put a damper on how we viewed our job. And the frustration that they had was all from the sign-up system. I understand the borough's concern about overcrowding and what that will do to the surrounding neighborhood. However, we ran the courts without a sign-up system for, I forget if it was 4 or 5 years prior to using the sign-up system. And we were pretty fine. There were no incidents that I heard of. And I really think that even though players will most likely have to wait longer due to an increased number of people at the courts at one time, that is what is going to be best for the courts in the long term. The players were asking for no sign-up system, so they really know what they're getting into with the chance of having to wait longer. And that's really on them. The courts or the players won't have the pressure of getting to the courts right at their time slot and leaving right at the end of their time slot. They can come and go as they want. They still pay the regular fee, whatever that is determined to be for this coming summer. And it's just less pressure on the employees because the employees won't have to be checking a list when people check in. They won't have to be checking the sign up after it opens, and they won't have to deal with the complaints of, oh, I didn't get into my preferred time slot. Can you sneak me in? Or I didn't get into my preferred time slot. These courts suck. Because we got all of those last summer. And the hardest part was, as I said, the employees were verbally harassed at the courts to the point where we got the police involved. Like, that can be directly correlated to the sign-up system, because what we were getting yelled at was about the sign-up system. And it's in the borough's best interest to create a safe working experience and environment for their employees, and that is created by the employees just checking people in and making sure the courts run smoothly, and that's it. They should not yelled at every day because of a sign-up system that can be easily removed without altering how Beach Haven pickleball works in the long term. Overall, I just want to reinforce the sign-up system created unnecessary frustration, and that frustration was really just taken out on the employees. It created an unsafe environment. So to create a safer environment, there should not be a sign-up system. I understand that the borough is concerned about the surrounding neighborhood, but from what I have seen, it does not affect the neighborhood to the extent that the borough thinks it does. It only really affects the players in that they have to wait longer to get onto a court, but they also have more time at the courts. Thank you for hearing me speak, even though it's a recording. I hope you all have a great New Year's and a smooth summer this coming summer.
Wow.
So I was totally unaware that that was a problem. I do not think it's to the fact of every place, gym, anywhere, you have to sign up. I have to go, if I want to go to the gym tomorrow at 7 a.m., I got to sign up and get my spot. And if I went in and said one horrible thing to my trainer, he would be like, goodbye, give me your membership, see you later. So I wish I would have known that happened, because that's what I would have recommended, that if you don't want to play by the rules, then you don't play. Like these are adults. Like, I can't even believe that we're entertaining this. And I mean, he even said, if you take away the scheduling, you're increasing the people at one time. Everybody wants to play at 8 a.m. Everybody wants to play at 8 a.m. So you're going to have 250 people there at 8 a.m. trying to get on those courts, which is absolutely not fair to the surrounding residential community. I don't understand really what more we can give pickleball players. And I've been to the courts and I've played. My friend and I went and I met 2 pickleball people there, and we played for an hour and a half, just the 4 of us. And we split our teams. I played against all 3 different, and it wasn't a problem. I mean, I understand that it's a social game, but it was the off season. I got to play, I didn't need to schedule this and that. But unfortunately, when you have tens of thousands of people that are coming in this short time frame, it cannot be chaos. It needs to be structured. It needs to be organized. If you want to do the whiteboard sign up way, that's great. After Labor Day, by all means. But when we have to respect the neighborhood, respect the rules, And if they don't want to play by the rules, they get their membership revoked and goodbye. I'm not tolerating that type of behavior at all.
Yeah, which is why we're putting that other section of the ordinance in there so that he has some authority to actually say, you know, you're not following the directions of the attendant, you have to leave, and that he could call the police and get their support.
Absolutely. And as
Mhm.
I don't think that unfortunately, if, you know, you have a few people that are, you know, don't agree with this, and it just needs to be put into place. I think that the schedule system needs to stay in place 100%. You can't have a free for all every single morning at 8 a.m. And that's what's going to happen. That's what everybody wants to play. I can't imagine that happening at the tennis courts. Everybody wants to play first because then they want to go to the beach. That's just the way that it is. And it gets too hot. Unfortunately, there needs to be a sign up that has to stay.
How many incidents were there this summer? Was this a daily thing?
Sounds like it.
It got pretty heated there for a while. Yes, I would say it was at least a month of pretty harsh times down there.
Was it the same people over and over again, or was it?
It was a few people, and you know, there was a lot of game playing with this reservation system. Folks would fill up the slots just to fill up the slots and then not show. So it just became a burden instead of people just coming up and signing under the whiteboard. And, you know, if it's full, then you have to wait till a slot opens, and then the attendants can just manage the games rather than having to manage this sign up system that fills up in 4 seconds and then having all the angry people that couldn't get on. It just didn't seem to work well at all.
But you can have 50 people at a time at the courts, and there's 6 courts, so, and 4 people play, so that's 24 people. So if 50 people sign up, only 24 people can play at a time. So even if it's not, you know, there could be a few that don't show up. So I don't understand, if 50 people can sign up, why they can't just maneuver those 50 people, because not all of them are playing at one time anyway. So they do have some handle. You know, when you sign up doesn't mean you're going to get a court right away. It just means that you're into this social game, you know, you're going to get on, and they can do that, but it needs to stay. I mean.
I agree with Jamie. I think it's going to be chaotic again. I think it's very unfortunate. And I was aware, and, you know, Sherry, you and I discussed it at the time, and I know the police were down there, and that is very, very unfortunate that any employee has to deal with that. One of the concerns I got, and I don't see any of were Beach Haven pickleball players were upset that they could not even get into the reservation system.
Mhm.
And we've had that discussion. I would like to take this reservation system one step farther and say, you know, when you buy your pass, you have to show some kind of whatever, that Beach Haven people get priority. Like, in other words, for the first 2 hours of sign up, only Beach Haven people can sign up. If you wish to play with somebody from out of town, then you take a later spot. But Beach Haven people should be given priority. I just don't think that if we go back to the old ways, then we're going to have this huge group. People are going to be complaining because they're not getting enough playing time. The whole system down there where they do the constant round robin, you know, some people don't like that either. So, you know, I think we need to work on this, but I don't think doing away with the system is the answer.
Okay, my feelings is I think we should try to take the advice of the people running the courts this year and see how it works. It obviously, I mean, I know how people work. They do sign up for courts and they don't use them. It's a mess. You know, I don't think the system worked last year, so why not try it the way they think it's going to work better? If it doesn't, you can always go back to the sign up. And then if you start limiting it just to Beach Haven people, then it's going to get so complicated that it's going to be a total mess. Literally.
Not limited to Beach Haven, but just give them first priority.
Well, I mean, I think that's gonna be, I think that's gonna be a nightmare as well. I mean, they're all paying a fee for I mean, I'd rather have the out of town people pay a bigger fee. But they're all paying a fee, and then how do you police it, that they have to prove that they live in Beach Haven? I think that becomes somewhat of a nightmare, but personally, I would just take the advice of the people that are down there that you respect, and see how it goes. I mean, try it for a month the way they want to do it. And if it's a nightmare, go back to the old way of doing it.
And I
That's
don't
what-
think, and I don't feel like we have to have an ordinance to put it back in place either. I mean, we
I don't
can
either.
administer the court however we want to. And, at the end of the season last year, the reservation system was done away with, and it went back to the old way, and we didn't have any problems. No one even, I mean,
think
no
we
one
should go
even
back to
really
the old
knew.
way. The other thing is that all these other towns on the island are building pickleball courts like mad. So.
No, they're not.
Yeah,
No,
they
they're not.
are.
Just
They-
Long Township right now.
Well, the township's not putting them in where M&M was, but they built some. I talked to Kurt Larson, they're building more pickleball courts down in Barnegat Light. I just talked to somebody the other day that was telling me, oh, it was at a wedding on the 1st, and they live in Loveladies, and they're playing a lot of pickleball down in Barnegat Light. So the other towns are putting more pickleball courts in.
Not that I've heard.
No.
Okay,
Mhm.
well, so here's what I think. I think this is absolutely despicable to listen to Jonathan speak this way, that the people who wanted these courts are treating the people who work for the borough in such a manner. So unfortunately, I have to agree with Nancy. You want to try the way that Jonathan thinks works best? We'll let you try it, pickleball people. And if you think it will work fine, then let's see if you can show that you can actually be adult and appropriate enough to not harass the people who work for the borough. I think I'm sorry, I'm getting really upset by the fact that people actually treated this person this way. So I agree with Nancy, and if Sherry, you're right, if we can put either in this ordinance, or we don't need to say that if the sign up, whatever whiteboard doesn't work, then we go back to an online. I mean, like Jamie said, I go to the gym every day. I have to sign up. If I don't sign up, or if I don't show up for 2 times, I'm out. I'm out of my gym. Like I can't go anymore. So those things can be put in place for these people if they can't seem to manage themselves.
Right.
That's
I don't
my opinion.
understand what the sign up system is so difficult, because I feel like I have to sign up for everything in my life. And
Right.
what happens when 100 people show up at 8 a.m.?
Mhm.
What happens?
Hmm.
So 50 get on and then 50 wait, or that's just, you have
We
two-
said they'll stand around.
Well-
He said it himself, they'll just stand around.
He said,
No.
when we talked to him, he felt that we wouldn't have that many people first thing in the morning, because they're not trying to make an appointment time. They're gonna get their coffee and they're gonna get there whenever they want to get there, instead of trying to rush there, that it won't be all at once.
We'll see.
I would like the opportunity to try.
I think we need to try a better sign up system. Like Chris said, if you don't make your doctor's appointment, they charge you. If you don't make your hair appointment, they charge you. If you don't make your pickleball appointment,
We've had 2 different sign-up systems, and it's not the sign-up system that's the problem. It's just
the
that
people.
it fills up so fast, and it's just becomes a competition, and it becomes just this frustrating part of playing that shouldn't be.
It's a shame.
Dan, what are your thoughts?
When we talked about this, I figured if the system wasn't broken, it's controlling the situation down there. Don't fix it.
Mhm.
I didn't know that they were harassing the attendants. Now, whether it's a few bad apples in every group, of course there are, but it's inexcusable. These are adults yelling at college kids,
Mhm.
not making a lot of money. That's despicable. That's shameful.
Mhm.
Whoever did that, that's, upsetting for me. If he thinks that it's gonna fix this problem, this rudeness that they've, displayed, okay, give it a shot. But I think that we should make it very clear to them, if this doesn't work, number one, if you yell at them, It's a lifetime ban. You're done. That's inexcusable behavior. No more pickleball and beach haven for you if you're going to treat the attendants that way. Number two, if it doesn't go smoothly with the round robin, we go back to the scheduling system. And like Chris was saying, if you have a group of people that are blocking the court so other people can't get in, that's causing a problem. Is that intentional? Who knows? So if you do that, you don't show up 2-3 times, you're done. Okay? I mean, it's, or at least you're off for a week, because I understand things happen. You know, you get called away, somebody gets sick, emergencies happen, you know, you can't make it, fine. But if you're routinely doing that, then maybe you get penalized. You're not allowed to sign up for 2 weeks, a week. You get taken out of the system for a couple, but it's got to be made something clear that we'll give you a chance, but that type of behavior can't happen. I mean, that's just not right. I mean, if you go into a restaurant and yell at the bartender, you're gone. You're gone. You're not allowed in the door. Your picture's up at the front desk. Nope, you're not allowed in here anymore. That shouldn't be any different. These guys are down there trying to facilitate a game to help people socially interact, play, exercise. And that's, I can't believe that they would treat these guys this way. They're there for them. I mean, I think they should have been banned last year at this point, if you yelled at them.
Yeah.
You're out. Don't come back. Go play somewhere else.
And isn't it when, if you don't show up, I mean, in college, if the professor doesn't show up, it's done. There should be a time limit. I mean, after 10 minutes, I know usually 15 is it, but if their time period is such a short thing, then after 10, that court is open. That player's done. And if they happen to show up, oh, well, they get at the end of the line. But I just don't understand why it got so crazy, because it shouldn't have.
Yeah, well, it's definitely going to be different this year. Okay, that's all I had for general discussion, and I don't have a bill list for today. So Colleen, if you'd like to open the floor for public comment, you can.
Okay. If you have a comment, please raise your electronic hand or make yourself known. Don't forget name, address, and please limit it to 3 minutes.
John Halprin.
I think you're muted, John. There you go.
You hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, John Halprin, 319 Fairview Avenue in Beach Haven, also president of the Beach Haven Taxpayers Association. On the issue on outdoor dining, I agree, or we agree with many of the council members that outdoor dining should not take over public parking. Public parking is a large enough issue in our town, but also we support the concept of outdoor dining. You've read all the newspaper clippings. We're having an explosion of Omicron virus. The public has to be aware or make themselves comfortable that we have enough dining options that they would come and want to visit our town. Besides supporting the restaurants, when we have more visitors and tourists come to our town, it supports other businesses. And BHTA has always been supportive of our business community. So once again, I think there has to be a balance for the public between adequate public parking, as well as so they could be comfortable in visiting our restaurants, and that includes providing them with additional dining options. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Barry Wichusen.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, just state your name and address for the record.
Okay, thank you. Mary Wichusen, 134 Center Street. I came in a little late and I apologize for that, but I understand that the outside dining issue seems to center around parking problems. I have encountered a much different situation, and that is the outdoor noise that comes very often along with outside dining. I have no problem with outside dining. I don't like the sidewalks being blocked. I do think there's a parking problem, but For the most part, my problem is that it's very, very loud because outside dining apparently seems to include outside music and noise every single day of the week. So we were talking a few minutes ago about the pickleball and how people congregate and it annoys the neighbors. Well, I think that outside dining, if it's coupled with outside music, really should not happen in Beach Haven. I think that outside music is not appropriate, especially every single day of the week, every night of the week of the entire summer. So I'm hoping that if we do have an ordinance that establishes outside dining as a norm, that the outside noise issue would also be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Suzanne Fairley, did you want to be heard?
No.
Okay, I'm going to put you on mute then. Any other member of the public wish to be heard? Could raise an electronic hand. If you're on a cell phone, you can *6 to unmute yourself and make yourself known. Seeing none?
Seeing none, then we will close the floor to public comment. And we will move on to final remarks by council. And Mr. Allen, why don't we start with you tonight?
Okay. Well, I guess I'll talk about the elephant in the room, snowstorm. I guess, everybody be safe out there. I think, I know my kids have been outside probably for about 6 hours today. So hopefully people are out there having fun. And other than that, I want to wish everybody a happy and healthy 2022. Hopefully our world gets a little bit more sane again in this coming year. I certainly hope so. And I look forward to the challenges of the upcoming year.
Okay. Mrs. Baumiller?
Okay, I'll make this quick because my next meeting starts in a half hour.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the snowstorm, I am very excited. All the kids were out there using the entryways to the beach as their little snowboarding platform, and some adults had some bad behavior going on too, which hopefully we will leave that on 6th Street. Anyway, I just wanted to wish everybody a happy and healthy new year. I am very glad to close the door on 2021. All of us have lost many people last year, and we just have to keep moving forward for this year. And, today was a little kind of hectic. A lot of us were remote, but I think the snow day lifted our spirits a lot. I know it did for me and my family. So that's all I have to say. And I will see everyone. I won't see any of you in a half hour, but I'll be back in this Zoom world again.
Fine.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Davis?
Happy New Year and enjoy the snow. That's the end of my public comment. Thank you.
Okay. Mrs. Rutherford?
Yeah, I would just like to wish everyone a happy new year as well. It's always nice to see fresh snow for one day, and then can it please go away and summer come. So thank you for this time. I enjoy the dialogue about the proposed ordinances. I think we can come forward with something. I appreciate Mr. Palladino coming as a business owner to talk to us about how it impacts his business. So that's always helpful. We're always up for dialogue. So hopefully we'll get more of that in the new year. And thank you all for your time today.
Okay, that leaves me. I just want to say Happy New Year as well. There are a lot of challenges that are facing Beach Haven, and I've had a lot of great letters from people, and I would sincerely urge everybody to try to get more involved. I mean, there are a lot of different ways you can become part of the solution. We have the Neighborhood Watch Program, which just started last year, Land Use Board, HPAC, Library Board, Fire Department, First Aid Squad. So please consider taking the opportunity to not just write a letter, which I do appreciate, don't get me wrong, but to actually become involved, because we can really use everybody's help. So thank you very much. And I guess we'll see you next week. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second?
All right. Thank you, everybody. Meeting adjourned.
Hey, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.